said his administration was a, quote, Gestapo administration. And nobody really had anything to say about that, right? I mean, obviously people on the left were criticizing him, but here we go again with this circle of criticism. But to bring it back to the actual conversation, I think this comparison to everything of, this is like the Holocaust, this is like Nazis, especially in the line and in terms of Trump, is so dramatic and overused that I think we honestly run the risk of trying to constantly minimize a horrific situation and comparing that to every little decision he makes. So I do believe that we should stop using that comparison altogether unless there actually is a worthy comparison. Picking up people off the street and deciding to do what you're doing with the way that he's implementing immigration is not the way that I would go about it, but I also don't think that that's a good comparison. And Tim Walz at this graduation speech, to me, is a misuse of the term. But I do think that he, importantly, is pointing out something that is wrong. Americans agree that we do need to fix our immigration system. That was one of Biden's Achilles heels. But they don't agree with the way that Trump administration is going about it. I mean, there's been reports of ICE officials being outside of churches, arresting people, considering going into schools. And these are places where people should feel protected and safe in our country. And also we saw, growing up in New York, how stop and frisk went, right? So what does an immigrant look like? Immigrants are from Ukraine. Immigrants are from Afghanistan. Immigrants are from Venezuela. And so if we just decide, ICE agents, that we're just going to pick people up that look like immigrants and then detain them and send them somewhere else, we run the risk of picking up actual Americans and being in a crisis where we're not abiding by due process and sending people in the wrong direction.
Well, you're getting at exactly what worries me, because when the administration was defending what it was doing, for instance, with Kilmar Abrego Garcia, and on that front, this is someone who I think there's been plenty of evidence presented that he was in fact a gang member, and that there's every reason to deport him. They were not supposed to deport him to El Salvador, although that is where he is from. He is now back in the country he's from. I'm kind of like, why would we kidnap him back to this country when he's now in the country he belongs in? That one was obscuring where I think there was a stronger argument from the anti-immigration people, was obscuring some other cases where, but the Trump administration is taking the position that they don't have to bring anybody back because when they're not in the country. And I'm like, well, if you're saying that, would that logic also apply to an American citizen? You're like, well, now they're not in the country, we don't have to get them back. I'm like, okay, but if you flew them out of the country, then I think you do have to bring them back. And then some of what we saw, especially with the campus, the kind of pro-Palestinian people who I don't agree with at all, but you wrote an op-ed and now you're being visited by the police and they're going to move to deport you. I don't think we should be deporting people who just expressed a viewpoint or engaged in speech that is clearly constitutional. If they were not a citizen, then it's just only so non-citizens don't get to say anything. I don't think do Republicans even agree with that? They should be able to. We're for speech. We're for more free speech. So that's all not great.
And I think that undocumented immigrants, the conversation that they're constantly committing crimes is just wholly untrue, right? Mm-hmm. We know the numbers, we both do, that it's not that more undocumented immigrants are committing more crimes than Americans, or even per capita of how many of them are here are committing crimes. So I think that we need to figure out that we, allow certain protected status. We want people to come here because they're fleeing really horrendous situations. And so when we put them in a position where they're constantly being threatened, yes, the number of immigrants have gone down, and yes, perhaps they're saving us some money, but not close to the amount that Trump said that he wanted to save on the campaign trail. We have a long way to go, and I think that there may be a more thoughtful approach to trying to figure out immigration rather than just throwing people in vans.
I want crime dealt with regardless of whether the perpetrator is an illegal immigrant or not. I don't care their skin color or their income level or their gender or any other identity. I just want crime dealt with. Now I know, but many conservatives will say, okay, but even if illegal immigrants aren't responsible for disproportionate amounts of crime, they should not be here anyway. So one crime by an illegal immigrant is too many because they're not supposed to be here. So I have heard that argument, and
the not supposed to be here argument is just so interesting to me because our country was built on migration. You know what I mean? So I think finding reasonable solutions for people to try to come to America is a viable path forward.
Yeah, but I don't think
people go through the right channels. I'm not saying they should run across and hop fences.
Yeah, I know you're not saying that, but I also don't think that you're a refugee. It's sad for you there. I mean, we might be sad for you, but we can't fix all the world's problems. There's a lot of dysfunction in a lot of places of the world. I want to bring people here if they're going to be a net benefit for our country, and many of them are. They're going to work hard. They're going to be a net contributor to our welfare system. They want to help. It can be low-skilled immigration if they want to help build houses. It can be high-skilled immigration if they're all computer geniuses, whatever it is. But it's not, for me at least, it's not so much like we're helping for just purely altruistic humanitarian reasons. I think that's too much, frankly, to ask of the American people. That's not the American people's views, that we are responsible for being altruistic and just bringing everyone here for their own good. The reason to do it is that it's economically beneficial for all of us in a lot of cases, but it's got to be a case-by-case basis, and we got to make sure there's no violence or gang affiliations or terrorism, or it's just going to be, flooding the education system or the health care system. But that still leaves room for a lot of good, solid immigration to take place orderly. I hope we have immigration reform so that's not rushing the border, that kind of thing.
Yeah, we can agree on that one.
Next up, Bernie Sanders is taking a shot at Democrats while on Andrew Schultz's podcast. We'll discuss.